This is an illustrated news notice from 1561 in the medieval German city of Nuremberg, when the God-fearing people of the city saw numerous flying objects that were moving across the dawn sky in strange formations. According to the printed broadsheet, the sight appeared in the early morning hours of April 14th, just as the sun began to rise. Witnesses described spheres, crosses, and long cylindrical shapes scattered across the sky, some clustered together, others moving independently. The objects were said to shift position rapidly, as if engaged in deliberate maneuvers above the rooftops and church spires of the city. The account claims that red, black, and blue spheres were seen in large numbers, floating near the sun and around elongated tube-like forms. From these cylindrical shapes, smaller globes were reportedly emerging, as if released into the open sky. Observers stated that the objects seemed to clash or collide, moving back and forth in what resembled an aerial struggle. After the apparent conflict ended, a large, dark, spear-like object reportedly remained visible in the sky before gradually fading from sight. The printed account interprets the entire occurrence as a warning from God, urging repentance and moral reflection. Things got even more interesting when just 4 years after the Nuremberg sighting, another dramatic celestial report emerged, this time over the Swedish Pomeranian city of Stralsund, modern Germany. The sighting was described as dark gray ships that had a color like that of the rising moon, and sometimes said to be covered by a dome like that of a hat, as well as being saucer-shaped like a plate, often said to be seen flying over St. Nicholas Church near the Baltic Sea, where they would hover until the evening. 1 year later, in the Swiss city of Basel, another sighting was witnessed. On the morning of August 7th, 1566, residents witnessed an unusual phenomenon in the sky at sunrise. According to pamphlets printed by Samuel Apiarius and Samuel Cocchius, black and red spheres shaped as cannonballs appeared near the sun, moving in formations that alarmed observers. The objects were said to drift across the sky before disappearing entirely. Like the Nuremberg broadsheet, the Basel pamphlet interpreted the event as a divine warning. The printed text urged citizens to repent and recognize the signs sent from heaven. Modern explanations for the event vary. Some researchers suggest atmospheric optical phenomena, such as sundogs or parhelia, which can create bright spots and arcs around the sun under specific conditions. But the thing is, we found an earlier illustration from the Nuremberg Chronicle that depicts a sundog, and as you can see, medieval Germans depicted it unmistakably, although, of course, they still attributed the phenomenon to God. And this is a sundog painting from Stockholm in 1535, which again is not even close to the aerial UFO battle depicted in Nuremberg. We also can't say that the event was related to comets, as in 1577, a comet was widely observed and carefully illustrated in cities such as Augsburg and Nuremberg. Over 100 years later, in 1697, two massive objects described as glowing wheels were sighted over Hamburg, Germany on November 4th. Judging by the massive size of the objects, they were either very close to the ground or they were extremely large, yet still high in the sky. Like the Nuremberg and Basel broadsheets, other medieval and Renaissance artworks contain celestial details that, centuries later, would be re-examined through a very different lens. In most cases, these elements were embedded within religious scenes rather than presented as standalone events. They were painted not as mechanical craft, but as symbols of divine presence, angelic manifestation, or cosmic authority. Yet some of these depictions are visually striking enough to raise questions about how the sky was imagined in the pre-modern world. One of the most frequently discussed examples appears in a 15th century painting known as the Madonna with Saint Giovannino, attributed to Domenico Ghirlandaio. In the background sky above a landscape, a small dark disc-shaped object appears. A man and his dog are shown looking upward toward it. Another often cited work is The Annunciation with Saint Emitius by Carlo Crivelli, painted in 1486. In this scene, a beam of light descends from a disc-shaped object in the sky, passing through architecture and toward the Virgin Mary. Does that mean otherworldly beings have a hand in shaping our religion and influencing early humans with interactions that were interpreted by us as miracles, forming religious beliefs that affect us to this day? Numerous strange sightings were also recorded in antiquity. Among the many legends that grew around the figure of Alexander the Great, one of the more unusual claims describes strange aerial objects appearing during his campaigns. According to the story, two enormous, shining metallic discs appeared in the sky while his army was attempting to cross a river on its way back after defeating King Porus of India. These objects were described as silver shields by the Macedonians, which descended towards the Macedonian forces, terrifying the captured war elephants, frightening horses, and causing widespread panic among the soldiers. The river crossing was abandoned, and the army waited until the following day to proceed. Many years earlier, in 332 BCE, when the forces of Alexander besieged the Phoenician city of Tyre, flying silver shields appeared again over the city in triangular formation, 5 in total, 1 large and 4 smaller. According to this version, a beam of light from the largest object struck the walls of Tyre, causing them to crumble as if made of mud. The objects then hovered until the city fell and disappeared into the sky. Does all of this mean that extraterrestrial beings influenced the course of human history, assisting the conquests of Alexander the Great, which ultimately reshaped the ancient world and laid the foundations of the Hellenistic age? Alexander's campaigns connected Greece, Egypt, Persia, and parts of India into a vast network of trade, culture, science, and language, accelerating the spread of ideas that later shaped Roman civilization, and through it, much of the modern world. In 2007, Richard Stothers, an astronomer and planetary scientist at NASA's Goddard Institute for Space Studies, published a study titled Unidentified Flying Objects in Classical Antiquity, gathering the most credible ancient reports and analyzing them with both historical rigor and modern scientific reasoning. He systematically filtered out eclipses, comets, aurorae, and other known atmospheric phenomena, leaving only a small residue of cases that resist straightforward explanation. One such case occurred in 74 BCE during the campaign of Lucullus against Mithridates in Asia Minor. According to Plutarch, as the two armies prepared to engage, the sky suddenly split apart and a massive flame-colored object descended between them. It was described as resembling a wine jar in shape and molten silver in color, halting the confrontation as both sides stood in shock. The event reportedly caused the opposing forces to withdraw temporarily rather than begin battle. Another striking report comes from 65 AD, recorded by the Jewish historian Josephus in the Jewish War. He writes that before the outbreak of the revolt against Rome, chariots and armed battalions were seen running among the clouds and surrounding cities. The phenomenon appeared in broad daylight and was witnessed, according to his account, by many observers. Josephus presents it as an omen, but the description itself emphasizes motion, structure, and organized formations in the sky. Beyond these examples, Richard Stothers' study compiles dozens of additional reports drawn from Greek and Roman historians, prodigy lists, and early Christian sources. One of the most unusual early accounts comes from Japan in 1803, known as the Utsuro-bune incident. During the late Edo period on the shores of Harayadori in Hitachi province, local fishermen witnessed a perplexing sight. An unusual craft was seen drifting toward the shore. This object, covered in small metal plates reminiscent of the heat-resistant tiles used on space shuttles, eventually washed ashore, sparking curiosity and astonishment among the locals. The design of this craft was extraordinary, as it had glass windows in its upper section, likening its appearance and construction to technologies not seen until the modern era. As the crowd gathered around the mysterious vessel, a hatch opened, and from within emerged a young woman. The woman had a distinctive red hair and eyebrows and held a mysterious box. She was dressed in strange, unfamiliar garments and spoke an indecipherable language. Inside the craft, onlookers discovered writings resembling hieroglyphs, a type of script completely unknown to them. This story of the Utsuro-bune, as the craft came to be known, appears in 3 different ancient Japanese texts. Considering that these texts are historical, for many in Japan, this tale is viewed not just as folklore, but as a potential historical encounter with what some might deem a celestial visitor. Today, there are museums in Japan that even show a recreation of the vehicle encountered in 1803, although they refrain from calling it a UFO. In fact, the first emperor of Japan is considered to be a descendant of a celestial god. And in Shinto, the indigenous religion of Japan, there are numerous deities known as kami, which are described as interdimensional beings descending from the sky. Perhaps the most cited example in discussions about ancient alien theories in Japan is the Taketori Monogatari, also known as the Tale of Princess Kaguya. This 10th century narrative is considered Japan's oldest prose narrative, detailing the life of a mysterious moon child, Kaguya Hime, who is discovered inside a glowing bamboo stalk. As the story unfolds, Kaguya Hime grows into a woman of uncommon beauty, eventually revealing that she is from the moon and must return to her celestial family. The descriptions of her celestial origins, her return to the moon in what could be seen as a spacecraft, and the heavenly entourage that comes to retrieve her, are often interpreted by alien theorists as an allegory for extraterrestrial visitation. In fact, there's a 7,000-year-old ancient rocket ship cave carving found in Japan. It is still a mystery how ancient people were able to carve a petroglyph that looks identical to a modern rocket ship. Centuries earlier, in 776 AD, another dramatic sky report appeared in the Royal Frankish Annals. During a Saxon siege of the castle at Sigisburg, chroniclers recorded that 2 shields red with flame appeared in the sky above the church. The sight reportedly caused panic among the besieging Saxons, who interpreted it as divine intervention and retreated. Medieval writers framed the event as a Christian miracle. By the late 15th century, exploration narratives began recording similar anomalies. In 1492, during Christopher Columbus's voyage across the Atlantic, he documented in his ship's log a strange moving light observed over the sea. The light appeared to rise and fall, as if carried by motion, and was seen by multiple crew members before disappearing. This sighting was witnessed days before Columbus's landfall in the New World. In 1639, Governor John Winthrop of Massachusetts Bay Colony recorded another curious case. According to his journal, several sober and reliable men observed a bright light in the night sky over the muddy river. The light moved rapidly back and forth, sometimes appearing to dart in one direction before reversing course. The phenomenon reportedly lasted for several hours and was seen by multiple witnesses. Perhaps one of the oldest UFO sightings was written in the biblical book of Ezekiel, which was written during the Babylonian exile in the 6th century BCE. In Ezekiel 1, the prophet describes a whirlwind coming from the north, a great cloud with flashing fire and brilliant light surrounding it. Within the fire appear 4 living creatures, described by Ezekiel as having human likeness, but also animal features and wings. The prophet writes of wheels within wheels, gleaming like burnished bronze, moving in perfect synchronization beside living beings descending from the sky. The wheels are described as intersecting, multidirectional, and full of eyes all around their rims. Fire flashes between them and a radiant expanse stretches above, with a throne-like structure positioned overhead. Taken together, these accounts form a continuous historical pattern rather than isolated curiosities. Across centuries and cultures, witnesses consistently describe structured, luminous objects displaying movement and behavior that defy simple explanations. Interpretations shifted with worldview and technology, from divine signs to omens, secret weapons, or possible non-human craft, but the core observations remained strikingly similar. Whether the cause was natural, psychological, technological, or something still unknown, the persistence of these reports suggests that humanity has long been encountering phenomena in the sky that challenge our understanding of reality.